all the nations at war with Japan.
The use of the atomic bomb to end World War II and the unfathomable damage it caused to Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, prompted scientific and military communities to more closely examine the power and effects of nuclear weapons. What were the effects of radiation on humans? How could these weapons be safely handled and transported from one place to another? Could ships, aircraft, tanks, submarines, and other equipment be fortified to withstand the blast effects and radiation of a nuclear detonation?
There was a desire to understand the effect of nuclear weapons on all aspects of warfare, including the machines of warfare, the ships of warfare, and a very practically driven desire to see what was the effect of an atomic bomb on a ship. Would it function? Would the engines die?
Well, after we dropped 2 bombs on Japan at the end of the war, we didn't have many left. We didn't know what we were going to do. The rest of the world didn't know that situation, but we knew it ourselves. So they began to do testing first in the South Pacific.
1 T0.
After the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, officials became concerned about their lack of knowledge of the atomic bomb's after effects, particularly concerning naval targets and how they would fare in a nuclear attack. Due to the immense destructive powers that the United States now possessed, a commission assembled to look for a test site where they could find the answers to these questions. With approval from the White House, Crossroads was born. In 1946, Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands was chosen as a test site. The location was ideal because it was far away from population centers and had ample anchorage for both fleet and support ships.
Well, they chose to test in the Pacific because we had control of some of that area. And so they moved just a small population of islanders, the Bikini Islanders in the Marshall Islands, which were under trust to us, which is kind of ironic that they trusted us with it and then we blew it up.
Crossroads is the first set of post-World War II nuclear tests. So this is the first set of tests that are done, not in the urgency of war and not in the name of war, but to see what is going to be the use of this new weapon into the future.
In 1947, the Cold War was beginning to warm up, and the Soviet Union was planning to add nuclear weaponry to its arsenal. Sure enough, in late 1949, they set off their first fission bomb. The U.S. was now being challenged by Russia for military power. So, in early 1950, President Harry S. Truman rubber-stamped the development of the hydrogen bomb, a far more destructive weapon than the atom bomb. This project was called Operation Greenhouse. Greenhouse was short-lived as the Korean conflict had begun, putting a large burden on the military and crippling further research.
It was kind of like the perfect storm. Korean War, cost, the Soviet Union's quick advancement toward thermonuclear capability, that they submitted the Nutmeg Report again.
And then after it became evident that the Russians had a bomb as well, they needed a place that was closer, cheaper, faster, and easier to secure, and that's when it came to Nevada.
The Project Nutmeg Report was a study to look at sites in the continental United States, including Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico. Many of the suggested locations were ruled out for the potential danger to downwind populations. The commission finally decided on an area between Las Vegas and Tonopah, Nevada, because there were only 4,100 people who lived in possible harm's way, and the small population made it possible for hasty evacuation.
So there were a variety of examinations of different places going on, analysis of those natural environments and their suitability for testing, an analysis of the people who lived there and where they lived and what was the extent of the population.
They looked at 6 locations and finally settled on this location, which was a part of the Nellis bombing and gunnery range at the time. They carved out 640 square miles of it. The president signed the paperwork on December 18th, 1950, and on January 27th, 1951, 45 calendar days later, they dropped the first bomb on the United States.
I mean, it was an enormous cost to conduct these tests in the Pacific. I mean, moving material, manpower, just an enormous cost. And so it was essentially a cost-saving device. And the Nevada test site was ultimately chosen. It was kind of an exciting development. It was a time when people were much more naive.
As word about the search for a continental test site leaked out, and horror stories of the aftermath of Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombings spread, concerns about safety grew into a daunting public relations situation.